Today's webinar specifically is for those of you who run small businesses of whatever size, and Jane is going to go over very specific things about how many employees, what the loans look like, and you're going to get to ask questions. I'm going to introduce Jane Sawyer. She is the director of the U.S. Small Business Administration, Hawaii District Office. We are very privileged to have her here with us today. She served as the U.S. Director for the Small Business Administration, appointed in 2009. She oversees all activities of the federal agency, from loans and lending relations with financial institutions to small businesses training and counseling assistance through SBA resource partners such as small business development centers. So I'm going to turn the time over to her. She has a presentation for you. This will last about 5 to 10 minutes. So you guys better be typing in the Q&A box, because when she wraps up, I'm going to be going to your questions. So Jane, take it away.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I know that there are a lot of concerns out there, and particularly among small business owners, all of you independent contractors, gig workers, all sorts of small businesses, because we aren't doing business right now. How are we going to make ends meet? How are we going to pay ourselves? How are we going to pay our employees and keep the home fires burning, keep everybody going forward? Well, SBA has put together a couple of different programs, thanks to Congress, for funding a couple of different special loan programs, and also providing resources to help businesses who have existing SBA loans, who need some bridge financing, and also different ways to help us get through this pandemic altogether. The SBA loans and the SBA programs that we have, generally speaking, SBA programs and SBA loans are for small businesses to start them out, help them grow, expand their business, help them export. With these special loans right now, we're helping people through this disaster situation, this crisis that we're facing. We are all, as we said, the businesses are closed up. People aren't being able to work. They aren't being able to do what they do to keep their employees paid, to pay themselves, to keep their a roof over their head and things like that. So we have special loan programs. One is called the PPP, Payroll Protection Plan. And that one is designed to help business owners keep employees on the payroll. So if you have employees, you are a sole proprietor, you run a single member LLC, you're a gig worker, you can apply for the PPP to help you replace some of your payroll costs and a little bit of your overhead. You can apply a portion of that loan to your rent, mortgage interest, your fixed costs, like your utilities and things like that, so that you can keep your business open and running for the time that it looks like we may be closed due to the pandemic. If you're seeing you've lost revenue because you either are not non-essential business, your customers are not here, you may be a tourism-related industry, this program could help you to sustain your business and pay your employees, so you'll be ready to go again when we're ready to go back to business. Our second program is called the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. This program is a little bit different. It is an SBA program, and SBA acts as a bank with this program, but it also helps you pay for your employees. It also helps cover fixed costs or overhead that you would have been able to pay if you hadn't had that loss in income as a result of the COVID pandemic. So this one is a program that's offered through the SBA. It's open to small businesses with under 500 employees. It's open to some nonprofit organizations, and again, sole proprietors, independent contractors, and the like. So this one, again, is a little bit different. This one can go up to $2 million and has a 30-year repayment term. So, and the interest rate on this one for small businesses is 3.75% for 30 years fixed. And for nonprofits, it's 2.75 fixed. And I'm just gonna take a quick look. Right now, we're in round 2 with the PPP loan program. That one, initially Congress gave us $349 billion to fund businesses for this program across the nation. That $349 billion was expended in 14 days. So it went flying out the door. SBA hasn't done made that many loans in 14 years, much less 14 days. So all the banks were very, very busy. A lot of our local lenders were very, very involved and did a great job in bringing those dollars here to Hawaii for small businesses. So that program, the PPP, runs through our 7A lenders. So all our local lenders, credit unions, our local banks, and they've just funded a second round, and that started on Monday morning, and that was for $310 billion. They've already, by this morning, they had lent out $90 billion. So it's in high demand, and you can apply for that loan. It's a simple, like 4-page document. It asks a little bit of information about your business, about your eligibility. You do it remotely. You make this application online by going to your bank of record here, or if they are not accepting applications because they've been so busy, you could also go to, particularly if you're a smaller business, you could go to some of the fintechs, like maybe you work with Square or PayPal, or have had a loan through Cabbage. Those are ways that you can get your loan input and under consideration by those lenders pretty quickly, because they're all working in the cloud. So it's a quick loan application. Again, there's a little bit of information to be eligible for this program. There are no collateral requirements. There's no personal guarantee. There are no SBA borrower or lender fees that are part of our normal programs. And there are no payments on this loan for 6 months. To be eligible for this loan program, you can have 500 or fewer employees. So 500 sounds like a pretty good sized business. And in Hawaii, it is a pretty good sized business. Most nonprofits that are 501c3s or veterans organizations or tribal concerns can apply for this loan. So that's very important. You need to be a 501c3 organization to have the right nonprofit status to apply to be eligible for this loan. Sole proprietors, self-employed individuals, and independent contractors can also apply. You have to have been in business on February 15th. There is a look back because each of these programs wants to know how many employees you have, even if it's just yourself, even if it's just you and you don't have the typical W-2 forms. There are different ways that you use your tax returns to determine how much you can apply for each of these loans. You can use the loan proceeds from the PPP for payroll and related costs. You can pay some rent, your mortgage interest, and your utilities, because again, PPP stands for the payroll protection, and it's designed to replace income so you don't have to go and claim unemployment. It will also pay for things like cover the payment that you would make for your health insurance, any sick leave or vacation time, all of those things that are factored into your payroll. Some of your state taxes can go there. So it can cover a lot of things that wouldn't be. There also is a forgiveness element with this loan. And so that some of it you may not have to pay back. And if you do, if they aren't eligible or you don't cover those costs, which is the bulk of this loan, you want to go ahead and you apply for forgiveness through your lender, and it can be up to 75% of the loan to cover the payroll costs for the 8-week period following the time the loan is funded. So there are a couple of steps that you have to go through. If you have any leftover funds at the end of that 8-week period that you haven't expended for those allowable costs, it can turn into a loan that has a term 1% interest rate and a term of 2 years with 6 months deferred payments. So it can really help you get through this time when you're not generating the kind of revenue that you normally would, or you aren't being able to perform on contracts that you have, or customers aren't walking through your door or ordering meals through you or things like that. So it will help you make ends meet until the time we can resume normal business. So, I mean, that's a lot of information. A great place to go if you have questions about this and need more information is www.sba.gov. At the website, there's a yellow banner across the top. And what you would do is click on that banner, and that takes you to the programs for COVID-19 response. There'll be a menu on the left-hand side of the page that will tell you PPP, Economic Injury Disaster Loan, SBA Debt Relief, or SBA Bridge Loans. So those are the 4 different programs. And again, if you're an SBA borrower currently with a current SBA 7A loan, a 504 loan, or a disaster loan, you can also get assistance in meeting those loan payments for the next 6 months. Actually, SBA will make your loan payments and pay your fees for 6 months. You just have to talk to your lender and make sure they're aware of the program, and they'll make an automatic payment to SBA, and that's all through the CARES Act. So there's a lot of help there and going through these programs. If you're interested in the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, you can go ahead and go right to that SBA.gov page, and there's more information on that loan there. We are working through the loan program right now. We're processing over 9,100 loans through the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program that also has a advanced feature to it, so you can get some money quickly or more quickly before they fully process your loan, and that loan amount does not have to be repaid either. It can be forgiven. Quick recap of all of those loan programs, and they should both be open. IDLs have been closed because it's been overprescribed, but coming up really soon this week, it should be opening up again, and you should go to SBA.gov and check in the morning, either if you have a loan or if you haven't applied yet, to see if that portal is going to be opening up, and check out new loan applications. So, Andrea?
That was great, Jane. Awesome. I have people chatting like, oh my goodness. So we got a lot of questions, and I'm just going to get to it. So
Okay.
What type of support is there for those who just started business? My business was first incorporated on January 16th, and we lost a gig that would have been our first.
Oh, wow. That's a tough one. So you haven't generated any revenue as yet. Okay. Now we will probably have to look at some of the other resources that are available. And I'm trying to think, there are a couple of emergency loan programs that have been offered. What I'm going to suggest you do, so we'd have to dig into what type of business it is, when you actually started, and some of that information as well, to determine where to direct you for what type of assistance. So a place you could send your questions or your concerns could be to email hawaiigeneral@sba.gov. And that will come into my office, and my team who's working here, some remotely, we're social distancing, we're all in the same boat, that you could hawaiigeneral@sba.gov right there, and somebody will respond to you within the next 24 hours. So we can take a look at what other programs are available, whether it is the unemployment PUA site for independent contractors or small businesses that's just come up with the state, whether it may be a different program that's available for the different types of industries, or the micro lenders who can give loans up to $25,000. It really depends on your conditions and how this pandemic is affecting you adversely. So,
thank you. Good answer. Next one is, the pool portal is not allowing me to file a new application as a IC sole proprietor under the Federal CARES Act because I have an active account under the state portal. To date, I have not yet been able to file my initial claim. Following the news, it was conveyed to all self-employed IC to wait for the new pool platform. My emails are not answered, and of course, I can't get through the unemployment hotline.
oh boy, I think we are a victim of just having so many people suffering from this, and Hawaii is experiencing some of the highest, or the highest unemployment in the country, a complete reversal of where we were several months back. So I know that it's a pre-approval or pre-application right now, and I know that being patient is not the best recommendation or what you want to hear, But I think right now that is the best recommendation, to be patient, to stay on top of the developments with that portal. And again, I understand what's going on with the unemployment at the state, that they have been so overwhelmed by the need that is in the community because of this whole situation. We've seen every one of the SBA portals clogged up, shut down. We saw a big crash when we first opened the economic injury disaster loan, and that was back in toward the end of March, and we got some applications in, but then it totally collapsed. We brought it up on a new platform to, you know, like triple what we could do, and it crashed again. It was just, there's so much demand. And so I know what the Labor Department is experiencing right now. And I really just say, keep at it, don't give up, be patient, look at for other resources in the community, because there are a lot of organizations that are trying to help as well.
And part of what Jane said was the email that we just put in the chat box and the slide you saw. So she is saying that their office is going to respond to that. And this kind of leads to the next question, which may help everyone with the answer to the previous one. It says, if I already applied to unemployment insurance, should I continue that process or just cancel the claim and start a new process with the new pool portal?
Oh, that one, you know, since I'm not a state worker, I'm not really sure how they're handling that and what their intake is actually like. If you were talking about our program, I'd have to ask which loan you applied for. With our PPP, I would say enter multiple applications. With our economic injury disaster loan, I'd say wait, you know, or what application number did you get when you input it? So that's a different question, and I know it's been hard to get the answers, or to try and follow the news or check on the governor's briefing in the afternoon, because often the director is there to give out more information, or go online and see if you can go to any of the broadcasts that are out there, because they may be taped and you may be able to get news if you maybe even just Google the Department of Labor and or press releases from the Department of Labor, maybe a kind of a workaround to get the information that might not be accessible from their website.
One, and for those of you who might have jumped in late, this is Jane Sawyer. She's the director of the Small Business Administration, the U.S. Small Business Administration, Hawaii District. So what she's referring to is that the Department of Labor is unfortunately not the same division she works for. So when you guys are asking, should I cancel an unemployment insurance claim, that is an office that she's saying she doesn't have direct purview over, so she can't advise you in that area. But she can say that for the PPP, for the Economic Disaster Recovery Loan, that those are ones that you guys can email directly to their office and they can try to walk you through those steps. So I haven't heard her say like outright to cancel one and do the other. She's saying that possibly just continue to pursue that, and then of course work with their office on the things that are available. One of the questions that came in, it says, what if I'm still making partial income?
Okay, that is fine too with the SBA programs, because what we're looking at is, we'll realize that some people are still continuing to work, but there may be situations where they are not as gainfully employed or making the income that you generally need to make a living in Hawaii. So if you've had a downturn or a significant loss in your revenue, your income, you can apply for either one of these loans. So oftentimes, for example, with the economic injury disaster loan, it says if, as a result of the pandemic, you are unable to meet the cost, the fixed costs in your business that you would have been able to meet if this pandemic hadn't happened, if we hadn't had to close our business, if we hadn't had a stay-at-home order, if the tourists were arriving, and maybe you're in a tourism-related or a service kind of industry, you can apply for a loan to offset those losses. So, and to not to maybe take you to your best year ever, but it will help you make sure you can pay your rent, your inventory costs, your accounts payable, your utilities, so your business is ready to operate when we start to go back to work.
One, I would reiterate, one of the things that Jane just went over is in the event that you're trying to apply for assistance, you don't have to be completely out of work in order to get that. And this is different than unemployment. So unemployment has some different parameters under it, whereas if you've lost a portion of your income, these two loans that she's talking about have different parameters. So one of the two loans gets paid back, and in fact, SBA helps you to pay it back. And then I think the other one, there is an interest rate, correct?
Mm-hmm. There's an interest rate that's affiliated with both of them when they turn into a loan. The PPP, you have an 8-week period to keep people on the payroll. That money, if it's used for allowable costs, 75% of your loan be used for payroll, paying yourself, paying your employees. The other 25% of the loan generally will go to rent, utilities, or mortgage interest. So those are the allowable costs that then can be forgiven for that 8-week covered period. So if you have funds left over after that period, it can roll into a loan that you still continue to use for those allowable costs. But and that will be at a rate of 2% over 2 years. But there's also a deferment of your payments for 6 months. So you have a period there of about 8 months where you aren't making loan payments, and a good portion of that loan could be forgiven. On the other program, you can get both of these loans, and they will coordinate the benefit. You will get some forgiveness for what is eligible for forgiveness, but they can be used for a little bit different. The economic injury disaster loan, you can use for working capital as well. So other expenses that you would have incurred in your business can be paid for with the economic injury disaster loan. Some of it, again, can be forgiven, but the uses of the proceeds, you can't double dip. You can't get it both from both sides. So there is that coordination that needs to happen. And the economic injury disaster loan has an interest rate for small businesses of 3.75%, still pretty low, but over a 30-year term. So that really extends that payment period, and it has a 6-month deferment too. So with either of these loan programs, we want you to get your business running again, get back on your feet, bring those employees back to work. And so there's about 8-month period or 6 to 8 month period where you won't have a loan payment.
Perfect. The next question says, I applied for the SBA EIDL program and received application number beginning with the number 3. Have not heard anything. I understand it's a grant and will be forgiven. I am an LLC and received help with the SBA here on the Big Island. Do I need to reapply?
For the economic injury disaster loans, when you got your application number and it began with a 3, it's about a 10-digit number, it began with a 3, you don't need to reapply. You need, again, to be patient, unfortunately. We are seeing those people with numbers in that 3 range start to get responses. And we've been hearing a lot of information from people that I just had $4,000 show up in my bank account. I got $1,000. I got $8,000. I can start operating again. And that is the advance. That means that they've looked at your loan program. They've determined that you're likely eligible for some sort of financial assistance. The advance up to $10,000 is an advance that you don't, or a loan, part of the loan that you don't have to repay. And that means that you have moved, you've progressed in the queue, and now they are starting to process your loans. I've seen and heard from a lot of people who've either emailed or called or stopped me on the street, 6 feet away, but stopped me on the street to say, to say they've gotten their money. There was no notice. It's like the tooth fairy came around or something, and they're just finding a deposit in their bank account. And when they go to check, the entry says SBA Treasury, SBA TREAS. So something like that is the identifier, but it just is in their bank account. And then it will all be reconciled. You should get a letter or a follow-up. They are supposed to be responding to people who got messages or application numbers beginning with 2s that tell them they need to update their application. And that will happen as soon as the portal opens later this week to hopefully allow new applications.
Perfect.
So it should be coming along.
I love your comparison of the tooth fairy, because really when the money comes, you're like, oh. Next question, will there be a certain total amount made on a 1099 that can get cleared for some assistance through the PUA, the pua.hawaii.gov? This is for the the self-employed one.
And that one, the limit on the PPP for your revenue or your income, you cannot replace income for anything over $100,000, and that's for the SBA PPP. So and there is a formula that you just would have to back out, and that's just for wages, salary, tips, things like that for somebody who is a self-employed or independent contractor, or that gig worker who really rakes in the tips driving Uber or whatever. You can count those tips, but up to 100,000. If you make 110, you back out that 10 and you go with the 100,000. And that includes, again, wages, salary, tips, basically any cash compensation that you would have earned up to $100,000, or any employee wage or salary up to $100,000.
Perfect. That was a great answer. Second question, I am employed, receiving partial salary as a broker reported under a W-2, but my main income comes through me being an independent contractor as a realtor. I am not requesting unemployment under the state as employee, just the federal level as an independent contractor, sole proprietorship through the CARES Act. Therefore, do I need to report both my W-2 income and 1099 miscellaneous income for PUA, or only report income as an independent contractor for which I am applying?
But since you're applying as the independent contractor, otherwise you're an employee, right? So you would just look at up to $100,000 in earnings as an independent contractor, and you would use your Schedule C to determine what your monthly rate is under that scenario. So
yes, I think her answer is you sum up what's on your Schedule C in your previous tax filing in regards to your independent contractor income, and that's what you'd be submitting, correct?
Yes, yes.
So
yeah,
don't
include your other wages.
All of it together, because that would be not what they're requesting, the information that they need from you. So just stick to the Schedule C, and I think it's line 31 or something.
31.
Don't ask me how I know that. Okay, I applied for EIDL back in the beginning of April and got no email back.
Okay, you got no response whatsoever, and it was early April. What I would do is send me at Hawaii General at sb.gov just information about your application. If you have the date, you didn't get anything back, and we'll see if I have somebody who's we're connected with and is doing some inside interrogation for some of these kind of questions. So we'll see if we can get you an answer.
Yep, and on the screen, you guys can see our contact one more time. Next question, number one, my income is 15%, 15 from a W-2 and 85% from a 1099 as an independent contractor. I tried to file a claim through PUA program, but was denied due to the fact that I have a bit of W-2 income. How do we go about filing a claim with mixed income? I think this was previously answered, correct? Is when you go through the 1099 PUA website and you're filing for independent contractor unemployment or whatever it is, you just stick to whatever you reported and how much income comes in for that. Is that correct, Jane?
I think that would probably be the best way to do it. I don't know if now your W-2 is from a different employer.
Yeah, she said the W-2 is a 15% of her income separate. 85% is from a 1099, and she's going through the PUA website.
I would ask your employer for the 15% if they're filing, because you couldn't do both. It's even some of those employers or small business owners who pay a majority of their workers on a 1099, they cannot claim those 1099 workers as employees. So but like, that's my payroll. Well, you can't do it both ways.
Right. If you had some role, then you can file for unemployment. But if you've been contracting them as a 1099, that individual has to go file separately as a sole proprietor, independent contractor, and then they claim their wages that they're losing. And the second question is, what is the criteria to be eligible for the additional $600 per week through the FPUC program?
Oh, and that one I am not exactly sure of. I know there are some specific criteria, and I would probably recommend going to the IRS website, because all the federal agencies that are offering special programs or information, COVID-19 response and programs are right up on their front page. So that would be the best place to go and get reliable information on that one.
Perfect.
So, sorry, I don't have that.
No worries. Next question. When do you think the second round of funds will run out?
Okay, if this round, if it has $310 billion, and as of the first 24-hour marker, approximately, we went through 90 billion, and we've got 310 billion. I would say 3 to 4 days.
Woo!
Yeah.
That is a lot. I'm not sure where this question pertains to. Michelle, help me out if you're still on. How do you do the advance payments? Does that sound?
Okay, does that mean, how does SBA make the advance payment to you? Okay, yeah. The advance payments, when you do your application, you should have given them both your either your social security number, your taxpayer ID numbers, if you're an employer, your EIN number, and you should have given them some information on a bank account. Or they will go to the IRS, and if you've connected with the IRS and you get your tax return electronically, that's how you will get it. And that's how that's how they sneak it into your account. And so you don't have to sign off on anything. It's all documented, because the IRS is the one who's shifting this money. That was an interesting comment on an earlier call, is that through the PPP program, you're going to the 7A lenders. So our banks here are the ones who are giving you the money, and then SBA is going to reimburse them. With the economic injury disaster loan, you're going to SBA directly, and SBA is that bank who then has the IRS transfer the money to you. So it's money moving through the economy and through our normal financial institutions and systems that are already established.
Side question before we go to another participant question. What if the bank hasn't processed the PPP? Because you're saying they kind of front the money, you guys reimburse it. So what happens when it gets?
When your application goes through the bank's portal, a bank officer then has to take your application, and they review your eligibility and the allowability of your payrolls, estimates, and your verification of the statements. So they do a quick calculation to see if you're eligible, the expenses are allowable, they're reasonable, and that you have signed off and certified, because that's the major portion of it. You're certifying everything that you put in here. And this is a federal document. So there can be, if you misrepresent, there can be problems. It could be fraud. It could be, false statements to the federal government. So you just have to be pretty careful in what you put in there. And you attest that what you're putting there is truthful to the best of your knowledge. The banker takes a look at it, sees if you're eligible, sees if this makes sense, and then they submit it through SBA's digital portal. And then SBA gives an approval number, it comes back to the bank takes that and they notify the borrower. And they have about 10 days, they can ask for further documentation. If you're a new customer at the bank, they're going to have to establish some way to positively ID you. And usually that means you may have to go to a branch or find a way to present your driver's license. Now, one of the things that slowed some of this down is because we're all doing business remotely. And this is a lot of dollars being passed around electronically. So they're being very, very careful to avoid any scams or further fraud. They want to make sure if somebody's taking money in your name, hopefully they aren't taking money in your name and you're getting the dollars yourself. So make sure you check and see if you've sent me an email and I send you something back and ask for your bank account number. Make sure that it's from SBA.gov, not SBA-Hawaii.org or anything like that. Make sure you're dealing with the bank, with the SBA, with the IRS before you give out any other information.
Great. So a lot of the checking up from bank to you as an individual could be some of the holdup, but they are giving documents to SBA by which they're going to be held accountable if they have incorrect information or haven't verified. So please keep pursuing that route if you get stuck. Next question, if we do not have our 2019 taxes completed yet, are we still eligible for pandemic unemployment claims? Can we use 1099 miscellaneous form or our 2018 taxes instead?
I think the 2018 taxes can help you determine what should be used for your 2019. With one of the SBA loans or the PPP, what they're asking is that you actually execute or mock up your 1099 and your tax return so that you can then submit your Schedule C, which will be required. It doesn't have to be signed and submitted to the IRS, but it has to be presented as truthful information. And that's also then how they will determine it. So
good. Next question, I've heard about that new SBA Express Bridge loan. Do you have any info about that process and who is eligible?
Okay, for the SBA bridge loans, it's a $25,000 express loan that goes through any 7A lender here. You have to be a for-profit business, and you have to be able to demonstrate that your business, you have had a going concern. You have to give them a little bit more information about what the downturn is. You do have to explain the use of proceeds, but several of the local banks are working with those loan programs, and they are expected to be shorter term loans. And I don't have all the specifics, but you could go to SBA.gov, COVID response banner, and then the menu on the side. I think SBA Express Bridge loans are the bottom selection, and that will take you through to show you exactly what you need to do, how to approach the bank. But again, most of our 7A lenders here are participating in that program.
Thank you. This next question from Ashley. Ashley, if you're still on, I see it here. It says, are we going to discuss new pandemic unemployment assistance? Unfortunately, we don't have someone from the unemployment office here. And so I know Jane is answering to the best of her ability what she knows. I've reached out to them as well. Like she said, they're a little inundated. I've tried to get someone to at least answer some questions. Gosh, I wish they had like one whole department just for troubleshooting because once they go through the process, they get stuck. It's hard to kind of re-enter and get questions answered. So I'm sorry, Ashley, if we didn't get specifically to your question. Next one. Would a business be required to apply for the PPP loan through a lender that a business already has a relationship with? Or can that business apply for this loan from a lender in which the business does not have a relationship?
Yes, you can apply with one of the lenders that you don't have a relationship with yet. And in many respects, a lot of people are encouraging a lot of the SBA officials, and our congressionals, elected officials are saying, look at some of the smaller lenders. One problem with that is, credit unions will process you as quickly as they can if you aren't a member already, but that can take some time and this money is going to go very quickly. I would recommend at this point that if you haven't heard from the bank that they've accepted an application or you want to put one in, I would again suggest that, put an application in, but go ahead and go to a fintech, go online and look for one of those organizations that is backed by another bank, PayPal. If you have an account with PayPal, if you've used PayPal before to purchase things online or for attending events, when you buy tickets, anything like that, you may be familiar with them. But they are processing the PPP loans pretty quickly, and they've been very responsive from people that I've talked to who are looking at, okay, I need to get a PPP. I have one employee, and I might be asking for $25,000. And again, they aren't going to charge you a higher interest rate. They are, because they agreed with SBA that they will follow the guidelines of this program. And so PayPal, Cabbage, we've had some people that have gone on Google and looked for SBA approved PPP lenders, and they've gotten quite a variety that they can go in and check out. Many of them are backed by bigger banks or financial organizations that are non-bank lenders, but they're processing quickly, they're accessible because they're in the cloud. Just be careful and be secure when you make your application.
That's great advice. So someone has a question. We did go over this a little, but it's never hard, it's never a bad idea to say it twice. So this person is asking about an unemployment claim, a UI claim, and then now there's this new pool portal that does the 1099s. Should they cancel one, go with the other? And again, Jane doesn't work for this department, but your best suggestion is to?
I guess it would depend, because my understanding was your 1099 or independent contractors were not being accepted in the older portal until maybe last week.
Yeah, so this person specifically said that they went through, did the unemployment assistance insurance program as a self-employed individual. Oh, that's a good question. Wait, I think I know what she's talking about now. I think she applied through UI as a self-employed individual, and now there's this pool portal that's saying, hey, all 1099ers and giggers come this way. I want to say the first portal was not set up for the 1099 crowd. I could be wrong though. I think the one that they today was more specific for those who are sole proprietors, independent contractors.
Yeah, it may be that your first claim is going to get bumped anyway if the first portal was not accepting those. It may have taken the information, but it might not be processing it correctly. I wish I knew. You're going to have to make that judgment call. I really can't recommend, one way or the other. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that one.
I have a question related. I think you might have said this to me prior to us getting on. This person said, I've applied today for unemployment insurance, the pandemic one. Can I also apply for the PPP through my Square and see who answers first?
Yes, you'd have to get rid of or drop your, if you get the PPP, you have to drop unemployment. And, depending on that, they may also ask you to repay if they've made any payments. I don't know how that fits together, and it may depend on how soon you would get your funding. But from the time you're approved, your lender is supposed to get you that funding and make the first disbursement of your loan within 10 days.
All right, next question. When we apply for this loan, would it be best to use our EIN or our DUN number?
EIN.
Awesome. Thank you for clarifying W-2 and 1099 miscellaneous income. I do comprehend Schedule C item 31. Glad to hear that I was on the right track, but wanted to make sure. Oh, never mind. We answered that. Got it. If one receives in the EIDL, is it true that whatever a IC receives from EIDL, this is a lot of acronyms, will be from the PPP? Example, 15,000 PPP, 10,000 EIDL equals PPP for a loan forgiven and will only be 5,000 instead of 15,000. Is this correct, or can both PPP and EIDL be forgiven as long as the expenses are not the same expenditures?
Oh, that one is a controversial one because they're looking at how much you should be getting from each one. So I'm going to say, send me that example to hawaiigeneral@sba.gov, and we'll figure out the best formula.
That's a good answer, because this might be specific to her, and I think she should work with you directly. Second part of this question, is the EIDL a loan or a grant?
The EIDL is actually a loan. So it is that advanced portion that with the CARES Act, it became up to you know, because they wanted to build in some forgiveness for that program, when the CARES Act came on, after that loan was already in the queue, they said, okay, we're going to give an advance so we can get money out more quickly. This hasn't really been quickly, but based on up to $10,000 would be a grant, or converted to a grant, based on the number of employees that you are claiming. So that's where up to 10,000, even if you have 20 employees, you only get 10,000. If you have 5 employees, you might get around 5,000, and that would be a grant. They may look at how to put the EIDL and the PPP together so you have the most flexible use, and that's a question in what does forgiveness look like then. It may not be that they're fully combined if you have put your employee costs into the EIDL and your employee costs into the PPP. So there's some work to do to reconcile them and figure out the loan amount.
All right, we're at our last question. My goodness, you have been such a good sport. I you the questions. Thank you, Jane. Last one. I do have an application number. That's the only email I got from SBA, and it says application sent. Sorry, that was the only email I got, and that's the one I applied for in the beginning of April. So I think this was the individual said that she didn't get the email back. So we're gonna just flip to the screen one more time. So
Let me ask one question, and one question for her. What does your number start with? Is it a 2 or a 3?
Oh, I'm at the chat box. I'm looking, Ashley. Type in a 2 or a 3. That is interesting. So like if it starts with, oh, she says 3.
3, then you're probably in processing. The 2s were the early ones that some of them, they were afraid they got compromised, and that was before they changed and streamlined the application. So people who have a 2, when the portal opens, need to get in there and update their application, because then they're eligible for an advance and that forgiveness on the advance.
Good. I didn't know there is a, you know, a method to the madness for the 2s and 3s in the beginning. So thank you so much, Jane.
That's the right answer. It is madness.
I know we're trying to wade through the madness and figure out if there's some type of formula that we should be following. Right. So my intention of doing this webinar today was just kind of to bring you straight to the people and let them kind of ask the. So I hope everyone enjoyed their time today. There was a lot of people in this webinar, and we are so grateful for the time that you gave us this afternoon. I'm sure you need to go home and eat dinner already. Is there anything that you would like to close up and conclude with?
I just want to say, you know, keep up the social distancing. I'm sorry that we're all having to stay home, but we'll all get through this together. Remember to breathe. We'll get away from this madness. And aloha to everyone. Please get in touch with us if we can help.
Thanks, Jane. Have a good night. Aloha, everyone. See you next time.